Hi, welcome back to A Higher Standard. I'm Cassie Mulholland, and today we're going to be playing Jeskai Saheeli. I already touched on green black decks in a couple previous articles, so we're gonna focus on um, one of the other two pillars of the format. Now, Jeskai Saheeli isn't really a pillar of the format, just because it's not nearly as popular. It's like kind of half a pillar, which is a little sad because it's not supporting anything. Anyway, I just thought it was a big deck at the beginning of the season, so it's important to cover, and we'll see kind of see what we can do, see if we can put up a good finish despite its troubles. And the deck can be categorized into a few parts. Um, So like, we have removal, which is going to keep us alive. We have counter spells, which are also going to keep us alive and protect the combo. We have card advantage, which is going to find the combo and find these like other pieces. And then we have this combo. And for the cost of 8 slots in our deck, we get an infinite combo that can win on turn 6 if the opponent's tapped out, and potentially on turn 4 if they can't kill Saheeli when we play it and they tap it. So how the combo works is you play Felidar Guardian, blink whatever. If you're on 6 mana, you spend 4 down to 2, and then you blink a land, comes back untapped, you have 3 mana to cast Saheeli. Very convenient, right? So let's say you do that. Then you cast Saheeli. You use her -2 ability to create a token of target artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types, which is rarely relevant, but it does come up. And then that token gains haste, and you exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So basically, you're making a copy of Felidar Guardian with haste. That copy comes into play, and you can exile any permanent you control. So you target Saheeli, she goes away, she comes back with 3 loyalty, she can -2 again. Now, some people are going to have something like a Natural Obsolescence main deck or Appetite for the Unnatural in the sideboard, or maybe Obsolescence in the sideboard. And maybe bring those in from the sideboard, or you might get hit with the main deck one. So when you're doing this loop, it's really important for Saheeli to target the original Felidar Guardian instead of one of the tokens, because the tokens technically have the artifact super type as well as the creature super type. Your opponent can use an artifact removal spell to get rid of the token you're targeting and sort of fizzle the combo. I won a match that way, actually. My opponent was comboing off, and I got rid of the Guardian, was able to attack the Saheeli to death next turn, and then was able to win that game and the match. So it might seem irrelevant, but it can be very relevant in certain situations. So if you're gonna play this deck, be careful about that. And I'm really gonna always try to target the original. You can't natural state the Felidar Guardian because even though they're tokens, they are copies of Guardian, so they cost 4. Um, as far as the card draw is concerned, it's really straightforward. Just 4 Glimmer, 4 Anticipate. Just like as much consistent manipulation as possible. We're gonna find, like, they'll help us hit our land drops. They'll help us find combo pieces. Glimmer is in particular very very solid because it can sometimes find both pieces of the combo with a single card. And then Anticipate is great for smoothing out our draws, hitting land drops, whatever. If we ever don't have to use a removal spell or a counter spell in a turn, an early turn, Anticipate's great. Speaking of removal and counter spells, we have a couple of shock. Like 2 shock and 4 hardest lightning are pretty much the stock removal spells here. And then immolating glare is nice. It doesn't deal with the combo on the opposing battlefield or something like a tireless tracker before they get a clue or two. So it's not the greatest thing, but it's solid for taking care of big creatures that shock and harness lightning can't get, like say Verdurous Gear Hulks or 4/5 4/5 Winding Constrictors after the opponent has Rish card them. So it's a really solid spell. We're playing 2 main and I think 1 in the board. Wait to the sideboard in a sec. But it's solid. It's great in some matchups. It's not that great in others. And then the Oath of Chandra might seem worse than Harness Lightning because we only have Saheeli as Planeswalkers, and I would typically agree, but it has a lot of synergy with Felidar Guardian. If you have Oath in play and you just want to cast Felidar Guardian without Saheeli, you can blink the Oath, deal 3 damage to another thing. So Felidar Guardian does its best Flame Tongue Kavu impression, which is quite solid. And then Fumigate takes care of basically any creatures. Just like it's our reset button. It's if we're getting beaten down too heavily, we don't have like Torrential Gear Hulk to kill 2 of their creatures on the attack, or if that line isn't enough, just fumigate them. Just like reset the board. And then as far as counter spells, we have 2 negates. Pretty stock. Negate is our best way to protect the combo, as well as a great way to stop like Heart of Kiran on the play or Planeswalkers. So it's pretty solid. And then 1 Horribly Awry, which is it's pretty solid against Scrap Heap Scrounger specifically. Or if they ever hard cast Prized Amalgam out of those like blue-red emerge decks. So that's solid. It's just a catch-all answer to creatures, counters Felidar Guardian for the combo, exiles them, and then 2 copies of Disallow because while it's really versatile, it's also pretty expensive. So it's like reasonable. The nice thing with Disallow is that on turn, like if you are able to set up and be ready to combo off with 3 mana up, if your opponent has a Walking Ballista on 1, you can disallow the activated ability to deal damage to Saheeli to break up the combo, and that protects your combo. So it has some utility beyond a simple counterspell. It could also counter Elder Deep Fiend triggers if you have a removal spell for the Deep Fiend, but you don't want to get tapped down. Although tapping 3 to disallow the trigger is like really close to just letting the 4 lands get tapped. Anyway, the final piece is like Torrential Gear Hulk, which is great card advantage engine. It lets us, play a draw go game because pretty much the rest of our deck is instants other than the combo. And it can function as a win condition against decks with a lot of removal that are forced to like spend it on the combo. Also, it synergizes with either half of the combo. Guardian can flicker it, Saheeli can copy it, you get another trigger. Gear Hulk into Glimmer of Genius is just the most absurd thing ever. And the mana base is relatively straightforward. We're playing as many untapped duels as we can reasonably play. So 4 Aether Hub, 4 Inspiring Vantage, 4 Spire Bluff Canal. Lets our lights come into play tapped on the early turns. If you'll see, we have quite a few 2-drops, even a couple of 1-drops. And we have a reasonable number of 3s as well. So we want untapped mana on the first 2 or 3 turns. And Port Town also fits into that category, although it's a little less consistent. But we need a blue-white land, I guess. And we have 3 creature lands, 2 spires, and a fumarole to sort of round out that package. Round out the dual land package. Provides us a little bit more Little bit more interaction with Planeswalkers mostly, but they can also close out games if we absolutely need them to. That's less likely. It's less likely that we'll need them to in this version versus more of a traditional control deck, because we have the combo, and then just a bunch of basics. 6 islands, 2 plains. So they're just for Port Town. We have all of our dual lands other than Port Town make red. Actually, all of our lands other than these 8 make red. So like there are no mountains because of town and because that slack is taken up by the rest of the mana base. Also, if you look at the mana, we want untapped white and blue sources on later turns, and we want untapped red on earlier turns, like untapped red and blue. So not having mountains makes sense, and having these other duals be red. Right. On to the sideboard. We have 2 Fragmentize and a Quarantine Field to deal with troublesome permanents. Artifacts, enchantments, Quarantine Field hits Planeswalkers. We have some more counter spells in Dispel, Negate, and Disallow, just to round out the counters in the main deck. Negate and Disallow are both supplementary, which means there are already copies in the main deck. But we can bring them in when we want more counter spells. And then Dispel is relevant in control mirrors, or just anywhere we really care about comboing out quickly, because it's a 1 mana way to protect the combo. Spellqueller kind of falls into that category as well. It's great against decks that are not as heavy on removal, but that play a lot of 3s and 4s. So Aetherworks Marvel decks, any sort of version of 4-color Saheeli. It's pretty solid in the mirror because it can be a 2-for-1. A lot of opponents will side out a large amount of removal. So it's a pretty solid card, and it's great in the sideboard because not everyone will be expecting it. We have another piece of spot removal in Immolating Glare, which destroys, like it's supplementary to the side to the main board. Some sweepers in Radiant Flames and Fumigate. Fumigate's also supplementary, but we get to go up to 4 sweepers potentially against a lot of decks. And then Linvala, well, against some decks, I guess. There aren't a ton of decks where we want both of these. For example, Radiant Flames is really solid against Mardu vehicles, but Fumigate is not great because it's too expensive. You want your sweeper to happen before they play a Planeswalker. And then Linvala the Preserver is kind of a sweet catch-all for these aggressive decks. Gains us some life and stabilizes the board if we need it to, so it's a pretty solid card. And I believe that's the deck. Oh, I want to talk really quickly about things that we have to worry about when comboing. First of all, we can never do it in our second main phase because we still have to attack our opponent and kill them. That's relatively obvious. Like jamming Saheeli on 3 on an open board is basically the best feeling ever, especially if we have Felidar Guardian in our hand and another land. Saheeli's Scry helps us find the combo or helps us at land drops. Excuse me, whatever. You can get Felidar Guardian down on like 5 mana, potentially, and blink a land, but they have a window to resolve a removal spell in response to blinking the land. Because we don't have Dispel, but they might not know that. I think it's worth it for them not to play around Dispel, but to play around Negate. And like if they play around the Dispel, then it doesn't help them anyway because we can still cast Dispel after the blink. Anyway, that might be worth it if your opponent's tapped out, because it lets you resolve Felidar Guardian on 5 and then hold up Negate. And the next turn you can cast Saheeli with Negate or Disallow backup. So it's pretty solid. Any damage to us at instant speed while we're comboing can disrupt it, because when Saheeli minuses on Felidar Guardian, she ends up at 1 counter. So shocking us, redirect to Saheeli, walking Ballista, us, redirect to Saheeli, anything like that can bust up the combo. Unlicensed disintegration out of vehicles is excuse me, is quite powerful. Because it can kill Guardian, they can redirect the 3 to Saheeli, so they often hit both cards at instant speed. Thalia, Heretic Cathar, and Authority of the Consoles both stop the combo by forcing our creatures to come into play tapped. With Splitter Twin in Modern, you could get around that by making all of the creatures on your opponent's end step, and then you would untap with them, and nothing would be exiled until your own end step. But that doesn't work here because it's the ability to make copies is sorcery speed. So those cards just shut us off of the combo, and we probably have to, if we can't remove them effectively, we have to rely on Gear Hulks or Creature Lands to get the job done. I think that's it. Yeah. All right. Well, stay tuned, and I'll be back for some games.